Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. And you go into that debate knowing they're either deceived or they're lying. It's going to come down to there are no atomic weapons. World War II did not end with the United States being a great hero. This is all contrived. This is all scripted. This is the mafias of the world scrambling to try to make some money while Satan is loosed and the Spirit of God is moving as it cannot help because it was foreordained before the foundation of this world. Let's get to the disclaimer. We're going to be looking at some videos. What has the Lord put on my heart to share since last night? Well, you saw that thumbnail. Maybe you read it. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? That this whole reset, I've lived it. You know, I was born in 58 when there were 48 states and all of these things that, we can go over in the pictures. It's all going to come back to certain groups of people had certain money to play with, and they're all gambling sex addicts, the women and the men. We'll look at that. This forgotten society of Crotona, another one of these, less than 2,000 subscribers who is, the Lord led me to something that I am want to share. And a little bit of Star Force, huh? 2 years. We talk about, they built a building in New York, Detroit, Stockholm, you fill in the blank, and they built that cathedral in 2 years. Well, he redesigned this whole city and built it in a swamp in 2 years. That's Vuban. That's their cover story for all the Star Forts. We'll sample that little gem. Mystery surrounds Rocky's death. Rocky Nelson Rockefeller. So let's look at the pictures. Let's see where we're going to go with what the bear, the Tylenol murders, corporate espionage, not some lone psychopath who just, is like, well, I'll show them, man. No, it could have been Bear. Because, they're the ones who knowingly sold HIV infected protein because, well, they had a way to make money. And they are going to make their money. Atomic energy, the last intelligence operation of the war. Right. Atomic anything. As if they're quantum physics and 97% of the matter in this, what they call universe. You can't see it, but we know it's there because we can make the math work. I got a better idea. How about shut up? Here is a map of Los Angeles from 1921 when Hollywood, where somebody said February 4th of last year that Hollywood Hills, Beverly Hills is where Satan's throne was. And look at all of this Crotona Institute of American Theosophical Society. That's a big part of LA because it's all of this. They don't even know who lived here. So there it is. There's that picture. Proposed layout for it. Okay. They figured they needed this in Hollywood, a theosophical society, because they were in control of the actors and those gambling sex fiends who all were like, yeah, I don't believe in God. Tell me something else to believe in. How about Atlantis? How about UFOs? How about a spirit world that doesn't need Jesus? I'm in. Yeah, that's what they said. That's what they said. That's not where I'm at. Did you know that one of these gambling sex addicts bought the Colts for $13,000? And then one of their razzle dazzle deals, Carol Rosenblum, the man who was gambling sex fiend, owned the Rams for less than 24 hours when he declared, we have a good or better chance as anyone to take it all. Thus came the indication that the man who swapped the Baltimore Colts for the Rams in the razzle dazzle deal won't be satisfied with less than a champion. Whoo, that away. That this is our world, huh? Hey. And he also bought, like the Casino Royale. We talked about Aristotle Onassis and their mob world. Well, this guy, he bought a famous casino in Havana, and that's where the 20 leading mafia figures met. Yeah, Carol Rosenblum, the guy who swapped the Colts for the Rams. They both ended up winning some of those Super Bowls that claim to be fixed. But just show a little tummy and some legs, and they'll follow you. This says supposed to say $13,000. Even that would be a bargain right now with the football. With the way they've got that gambling going now, you can bet on every play. But going back to the beginning of football, the beginning of Super Bowls, when they changed everything after the 50s, they're getting $100,000 a game per official, and they fixed supposedly 8 of the 9 games or whatever. It's a setup, and we bet on something. So this was this, 2009 internet thread, another one where they have to show it to you. I guess they sacrificed this girl on the Equinox or something like that. She was in some movies with some famous people, but then she got sacrificed. Had a heart attack at age 32 is their side of the story. Unbelievable, they say, for somebody that doesn't have a history of it. And she was, it says that she was murdered. Today is the winter solstice. Oh, wait, I put murdered. I added that. I thought they said that. Drew Barrymore, how'd she get hooked on cocaine at age 11? What does 11-year-old just go out and say, like, man, I feel like going out down to the corner and getting me one of those dime bags, man. And she was 11. I remember hearing that she got the alcoholism too when she was still a pre-teenager. But I guess that's what happened when allegedly, what was the other girl's name? Heather O'Rourke. They were both famous at the same time. I guess something about Steven Spielberg liked to have them be photographed sitting on his lap and be like, look, the new movie stars I'm making. MTV would give celebs place to stay and would record them in private. That's what this is alleged here, that started out in 2009. That first, because P. Diddy, he seemed like a ladies' man back then, not so much anymore, but it's going to come back to Jeffrey Epstein. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. We ain't going to waver far from it was those guys on the Lolita Express and the mafia. Could it be the Zionist, what is that? Interpol, blackmailing people, around the world. We got to keep this economy going until we can switch the bricks from the defunct petrodollar. Hey, astrology in the White House. Oh, my stars. Joan Quigley. She wasn't there first. She was there best. First family's involvement with soothsayers, you know. You got to look for it wherever you go. There's Nancy Reagan. She's the power behind the throne. Is there a power behind the throne? Was Hillary Clinton somehow got Bill Clinton by the short hairs? Or was it the mob? The mob. But anyway, I remember a man who had a bumper sticker at a church I went to. Avenge me, and a picture of Ronald Reagan, you know, like, oh. So can they make MK Ultra people, all of these lone wolf assassins that do anything by hypnotism? Some people say they can. But it began in 1953 and continued for years. It's going on. It's perfected by now. Just think, if we had been born again, what would we be up to right now? As bad as we are. As bad as, you know, as bad as we could be if we knew that we weren't restrained by the spirit. I mean, oh my goodness, these guys, we'd be right out there with them going like, I feel like getting brainwashed. So they're all these lone assassins. I guess Mark Chapman and is that the guy that the guy that killed John Lennon and shot at Reagan? They both had these backgrounds of being in Chicago, Christian night spots. They both had worked for World Vision with Vietnamese refugees at a resettlement camp. And people were always surprised because Mark Chapman cared deeply for children and worked hard. He did. And he, just like they said in the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson, you know, right after he shot John Lennon, he went into the store, bought another copy of The Catcher in the Rye. Was that it? They're programmed to buy that book, and then the sales come up and goes like, ooh, who bought that book in the area? Here's a FEMA. Jim Baker, not the preacher. Ooh, I feel a cough coming on. You know, sometimes I forget that, but that time you're glad I remembered. Vice President came to the Situation Room and calmly. Oh, so this is Casper Weinberger. He's all over 9/11 and 2001. So, but here he was saying that the day after Reagan was shot, there was supposed to be a FEMA exercise about what would happen if the president was shot, or if they had to do something to expedite the transition of power. Look at that guy. Got a gun now. What are you doing on the ground, man? Oh, he hit the deck. This guy's down. I saw this so many times. They replayed it on TV. Hinckley's brother was set to have dined at the home of Neil Bush that night. The next day, they canceled it, but they're family friends. The Hinkleys supported the Bushes. They denied it later, but I guess it's those canceled checks and stuff. It's a coincidence. Remember those stories going around before the election that Reagan would not survive the first year in office if elected? Certain links between Bush's son, Neil, head of security at 9/11 at the Twin Towers. Did you know that? Yeah, that was his job. He was supposed to keep it secure. It didn't work. But anyway, they did it. These guys, they all did it. They're all in on it. He's in on everything. They're in on the mob, the CIA, money for oil. Right there, the Vanderbilt Energy Corporation, founded in Dallas in 1970. Okay, moved to Denver in 74, according to Arnie Bork, it's treasurer. Why would he lie? Bush's son, okay, he did know the Hinckley brother, but that doesn't mean anything. All right. So here he's acquainted. Uh, here's a guy. That's a bigger gun. That's a Uzi. That's what they call it, Uzi. Just standing around filming one day, and the president gets shot. So this is the gun that is supposed to be in John Hinckley's hand, and the bullet went through this little crack right here. We'll see in the film, I believe, but look at that stop action film for back in 1981. I got this guy off the ground. It looks like as good as an NFL. This hat flew off somebody's head. They got him in the car before it hit the ground, but that's still lucky shot. He shot a couple of other people, and they got grazing wounds, and then another guy got his head blown off. And Jim Brady, the Brady Law. Look at that. That's a Schlitz beer advertisement. It looks like it's got the globe making a beer. You just can't get rid of these old walls, huh? Kind of brainwashing was going on there. Something just, I don't apologize for what the Lord has me do. Hey, I'm going to do a screenshot and say, look at that. I think I used that as a thumbnail. So that means I'm done with that part of the show.
Past, and that's quite a bit of an understatement. She was a former lounge singer and television weather reporter in Miami who was married 7 times. Carol Rosenblum was her sixth husband, and like Rosenblum, her second husband also died while married to her. She claimed that she met Rosenblum at a party hosted by
Hey,
Jack.
look, this was the president of the United States that was such a horn dog, I guess. Like, yeah, Dad, I get to be the president? Awesome. Wow, he had a stroke. I think I'll go against the mob. That makes sense, son. Go ahead.
Kennedy, JFK's dad. Rosenblum was best friends with the Kennedys, and there are rumors the two were introduced by Meyer Lansky, who was one of the most
Is this mafia world that I've been trying to shove down your throat for the last 7 years? Is it starting to be like, well, you don't have a dent in his argument. Maybe you can quit trying to tell me about the Nephilim clowns, and maybe you can listen to me now because we go with the Bible and all that. These guys did it along with the rest of the world. This is the gambling sex pervert that married the girl that, I'll be your seventh husband. And now she owns the Rams, and they're probably going to be in the Super Bowl because they got the Matthew Stafford.
notorious gangsters of this era. After Rosenblum's death, Georgia inherited Rosenblum's estate, valued at upwards of 500 million, and inherited a 70% ownership.
And remember, in the early 60s or something, he bought that team for 13 grand. It's not a setup of who's going to control the money in the world. Football, through gambling and their sex craziness, has programmed a generation to sit in front of the TV every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. And yay, I'm on a fantasy league. I bet on them. Like
Her
they
behavior
bet on
after
them.
Kara Rosenblum's death was a little suspicious, to say the least. She was an hour late to Rosenblum's funeral and was allegedly already talking about how to divide up his estate during the funeral. She was also an hour late to his wake a week later. She'd planned the wake herself, and it was described as a really strange event that was almost like a circus with comedians telling jokes, a roll call of A-list celebrities, and a 12-piece orchestra playing music.
That's Tom Bradley. I thought it was Tom Brady, the famous other football quarterback star.
Howard Cosell was a close friend of Rosenblum's and described the jolly, circus like atmosphere of the funeral as bewildering, in questionable taste, and an excursion into unreality. Steve Rosenblum was so disgusted at how much of a party
He thought that his mom murdered his dad.
Georgia had a close relationship with Dominic Frontiere while she was married to Carol. He was her quote unquote personal lyricist who worked with her on her singing, but their relationship was apparently somewhat more than that because he also escorted her to football games on Sundays. And he was also connected to the mob. Dick Crane, head of the organized crime strike force.
All right, so check that one off your list. Football connected with the mob? I'm shocked.
As mysteriously as Crotona emerged, it also vanished. Soon the story of these buildings was forgotten, and as the surrounding hills developed, they became just a few buildings within a maze of million-dollar homes and apartment complexes. Hollywood has always been mysterious, especially early Hollywood. The mysteries of this neighborhood live on to this day. Thanks for watching this video.
Yeah, and all the tunnels underneath Hollywood. Hollywood. They want me to say hip hip hooray for Hollywood. I got to make sure I'm sharing.
Hollywood is home to many secrets,
Yep,
and
looks
today
like
we will
it.
dive into the history of one of the strangest secret societies within it. You may have never heard of Crotona or Theosophy at all, but in the 1920s, this philosophical movement was thriving. It included tons of celebrities like Charlie Chaplin and Mary Astor, and even began building their own utopian self-sustaining community within the Hollywood Hills. Many of the structures they built still stand to this day. Later in the video, I will visit some of these sites and I will explore what happened to this society and all of its history. Welcome to Waste Media. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Let's get started.
It's a pretty
Theosophy is a
small
philosophical
channel
movement
for such
that
a
blends
big
Eastern and Western traditions. It
part of
emerged in the
lifting the
late
veil.
19th century and was founded by Helena Blavatsky,
You heard of
Henry
her.
Occult, and William Quan Judge.
Yeah, they hate Jesus Christ. They love Lucifer. They don't believe the Bible because she wanted to be able to have sex with men or women, and she didn't want her husband to tell her who she could or. So she found that guy. They made this religion, and the world said, "Thanks, man. Aleister Crowley will take it from here."
New York City in 1875. It draws heavily from Hinduism, Buddhism, and esoteric Western philosophies. The movement wanted to unify science, religion, and philosophy under the guiding principles of universal brotherhood and spiritual.
Wow, I never heard that before. Look at that. There's a party of the movie stars.
The movement began to grow, and by the early 20th century, its influence reached California. Albert Powell Warrington, a devoted
Heard of him.
theosophist, envisioned a spiritual oasis where the
Oh, so he's the guy he's probably in the Rosicrucians, huh?
plot. At the heart of this property stood the Crotona Inn, a complex with a lush courtyard, guest rooms, and a space for communal dining.
I'm going to back it up just a second there. See, so that RJ can say that, well, at least they had a temple of tolerance, and I can say, well, they planned one. I don't know if there's any proof that it was ever built, but are they tolerant or are they super tolerant? Those are your two choices.
Courtyard, guest rooms, and a space for communal dining. Completely by coincidence, a couple years ago when I was searching for a place to live in Los Angeles, I actually toured an apartment within this complex, without knowing anything about it. When I was doing research for this video, I realized that I had actually been inside this building. It was really cool.
Okay, so we got mafia, gambling, sex perverts in charge of faking atomic weapons. That's what was going on, you know, in the 20 teens. Well, I guess Jeffrey Epstein's been doing this since the Reagan era, but we only caught on to it because, you know, Jeffrey Epstein died in 2019. Doesn't that seem like a long time ago? How long ago was they building these buildings in just 2 years in a swamp?
2 years after the first stone was laid, it was ready to sustain an attack And 3 years later, the massive project was complete.
Wow. What was it again? What were you doing here?
Obstacles to overcome, and his blueprints were perfect. Both the king and roi chose his project.
The Lille Citadel is a perfect pentagon. The main enclosure is made of bastions connected to each other by curtain walls.
Wow. Why they need this?
Or by the seaside.
Oh, there it is.
Vauban's style stands out from all others. He expertly designed these massive points.
And did you see that? And when he was masterfully designing the points, he said, make sure that every little corner gets embellished with something that people will argue is like, is that real or is it a compound that they poured into a mold? Gonna fly now.
He designed these massive points,
Yeah,
connected by low-lying walls, typical of Vauban's architecture. First built in the 15th century, this type of military
all
construction
right. So I think the guy that tried to make a catchphrase of "Star for baby" when I didn't know what in the world the Bible was really talking about, or you can believe their version of history. Yikes.
rule, Louis XIV sent Vauban to fortify Besançon and watch over the territory, which was constantly coveted by Spain. As always,
Yeah, Vauban was one of these 17-year-old young guys that just somehow got noticed. What do they talk about the Vauban? You know, he just got noticed when he was so young and said, hey, can we take care of your boy? He's so smart. We want to train him by alone.
Vauban's career unfolded very slowly over many long years. It was not an explosive career. He was recognized and appreciated for his many talents, but he only became famous much later. Vauban waited until 1688, when he was 55, to become His Majesty's Lieutenant General.
Huh. Well, what is this stuff about, like when he got 17 and taken away from home? Oh, I saw a tunnel though, so I'm like, where's my bone?
From that spot, the English were forced to bring their troops ashore, which was risky, and they
That's
lost
not a
both
tunnel.
times.
Vauban imagined a monumental fortress on this.
These star forts, you know, they're there. They found them. They rebuilt them. It's just like David said, you know, hey, it's a good place to start, Jerusalem. But it was already there. Who? Nelson Rockefeller. You know, we think they're all. He was vice president of the United States to a president that was the only president that didn't get elected to even vice president. It was, hey, she can't be like that other girl that ended up owning the Rams. Anyway, what?
She felt there was far, far more to the story of Meghan Marshak and Panchita Pierce. Both women had worked for Rockefeller, and both women also lived in a condo building owned by Rockefeller that was just 2 doors down from his townhome in a very, very expensive area of Manhattan. Russell wondered if this building that Marshak and Pierce lived in was used by Rockefeller and the CIA for blackmail.
A big answer to this puzzle is the house on 25 West 54th Street that Panchita Pierce lives in with Meghan Marshak. Wondering if the motive for covering this whole thing up is, could that location, that co-op next door, be a front for the Central Intelligence Agency or the Defense Department that Rockefeller used, or was it where he personally fixed?
Or was it the mafia? What even are you talking about?
Along with Gerald Ford, become the first team of president and vice president ever to serve this country who have not been elected by the people.
Within a year, there were 2 assassination attempts on Ford's life. The first came on September 5th, 1975.
These were by people who wanted to avenge Charlie Manson. Laurel Hills much? Cherry
and this
Run.
came barely 2 weeks later on September 22nd.
Her name is Sarah Moore. She is the second woman to be charged with attempted murder of the president in the last 17 days.
Then Ford's presidential limo was in a suspicious car crash a month after that. Had Ford lost his life in any of the three events, Rockefeller would have basically been handed the presidency without ever having won a national election.
So Nelson Rockefeller, though, he lived and he was the vice. He could have been the president.
The next day, the story changed. Rockefeller was actually at a townhome he owned on 54th Street, not at Rockefeller Center, when he suffered the heart attack. Now, the scene of the death is a pretty major detail to get wrong. People start.
And so the other mafias were, Gerald Ford, he young congressman. Hey, how about being on the Warren Commission? He was he's one of them big time. And it's like, oh, try to kill me, huh? That's how the mafia does it, man.
Started questioning whether there was more to the story. Then that next day, the story changed again. The third story in 3 days offered up a surprise twist. A girl was involved. The latest story was now that Rockefeller ate dinner with his family, then had a 25-year-old employee named Megan Marshak come over to his townhome to help him, quote, work on an art book. At 10
That child does not look 25 years old to me.
p.m. on a Friday night.
She looks like
After
she's
Rockefeller's heart attack,
15.
Marshak was the one who called 911.
There's another
This
one. She looks
surprise
like she's
twist
like
went off like a bomb.
18.
Overnight, Megan Marshak
it's the
became
same
the
girl?
talk of the nation. There were constant jokes about her on Johnny Carson and
That's how you make fun of somebody. Just ridicule them.
SNL's Weekend Update. The most interesting detail that emerged was that Megan Marshak's 911 call was placed at 11:16, but Rockefeller's heart attack occurred at 10:15.
Huh.
Every second.
I guess that is kind of suspicious. What do we got here? So anyway, I looked up that Beechwood Canyon, Los Angeles. They don't mention that. They do say it was by the Hollywood sign. It was advertised upper portion. Today, look at that. Oh, it was already had that many but look at all these famous people that lived there or still live there. This is their home. I've heard of some of these people. We saw him fall out the door in that earlier scene. And I thought that was he did his own stunts. What? Fred Durst. Isn't he a Limp Biscuit? I thought it was Lincoln Park. We just found out that he was that's not the guy that wrote Roots. That guy was a plagiarizer. Who are these? So anyway, wow, this just keeps going. Hey, there's the guy from all those movies about, look at this funny world I live in where we use gold coins and kill people. He's the boogeyman. So I guess I looked it up. Probably misspelled it. So I did look at the diamonds are forever thing. Showed that, now where is that other stuff? It always is going to go back to the Order of the New Templars, the Rosicrucians, the John Birch Society, Sealed Order of the Hermetic Golden Dawn is Rosicrucian thing, all leading to the Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, it's us or them cipher manuscripts. We broke all their codes in World War II and they didn't know it. Ha ha ha. Right? Ooh, go America. And then we won with an atomic weapon and then imported the Nazis so that we could go to the moon. And you say the Bible's too hard to believe. I don't think so. I think the Bible is what you need to believe and what you need to put into practice now and forever. Because the mud flood was Armageddon. The golden age is past. It was ruled with a rod of iron. It wasn't some perfection thing where Jesus was sitting for 1,000 years on a throne in some soon to be built third temple that I've heard all my life. No, you better buckle down for what's about to happen here. You remnant of the orphan train, whatever happened here. Get your act together and start thinking about it. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. And nakame.